Before we get into today's show, let me tell you about the latest deal from Mike Lindell, MyPillow. Once again, the big box stores have canceled their orders simply because they don't agree with Mike Lindell's politics. They don't like it because he supports President Trump. Well, he's going to pass that savings on to you. No more middleman. And boy, does he have some great deals on the Giza Dream sheets and the Percal bed sheets. Listen to this. Giza Dream queen size, normally $139.98. Your wholesale price, $69.99 when you use promo code Joey. King size, only $79.99. The Percal queen size, normally $89.98. Your wholesale price, $29.98 when you use promo code Joey. Just call 1-800-893-4059 or go to mypillow.com. Always use promo code Joey. Free shipping options available. This allotment's not going to last very long. When they're gone, they're gone. mypillow.com. Promo code Joey. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. Welcome in. Glad to have you join me for a few minutes today. Things are still heating up in Texas, not temperature-wise, but politically. Governor Abbott has ordered the arrest of AWOL Texas House Democrats after warrants were issued by the Texas House Speaker yesterday. We have the latest on the drama playing out in Austin, Texas. Israel's Security Cabinet is set to meet today sometime to discuss their next steps in the nearly 2-year-old war with Hamas in the Gaza Strip, including, we're told, the possibility of reoccupying Gaza. In the 60s, it was the goal of NASA to put a man on the moon. Now the Trump administration aims a little bit higher. A memo circulated yesterday shows that there is a plan to put a nuclear reactor on the moon. Wow, we got those details too. And Drew McKissick, chairman of the South Carolina Republican Party, joins us to talk about Nancy Mace joining the race for governor in the Palmetto State.
I told you we'd be back.
And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
It's Joey Hudson.
I wanted to name it the Joey Hudson bill, but, they don't allow you to put names on bills. But I wanted to call it the Joey Hudson bill because I know that one's been near and dear to you for a number of years.
That's how it's done. Let your voice be heard.
And the truth shall set you free.
Here's Joey Hudson.
The Texas House Democrats have officially crossed a line again. This time, they're not just running from a vote, they're running from democracy itself. I told you about the story yesterday, as many of them were fleeing to Chicago. Well, a quorum call came and went yesterday, 4 p.m. Central, and those lawmakers, gone, AWOL, nowhere to be found, fled the state again. Now, you'd think that they were dodging jury duty or something, not their elected duties. But here's the kicker. Texas Speaker of the House, Dustin Burrows, didn't play around. The moment it was clear that the Democrats were a no-show, he dropped the hammer. He announced that he had signed arrest warrants, civil arrest warrants, against every absent Democrat if the House gave him the green light. And guess what they did? Unanimously. Moments later, Texas Governor Greg Abbott ordered the Texas Department of Public Safety to hunt them down, arrest them, and drag them back to the Capitol floor to do their job. This is going to get interesting. Now, let's stop right here because some folks out there, the mainstream pundits, Democrats in Illinois, Democrats in California and New York, they're all crying foul, saying that this is anti-democratic, saying that Abbott and Burrows are being authoritarian. You know what's really anti-democratic? Refusing to show up to vote because you know you're going to lose. Your constituents did not elect you into office to not show up on days that you thought you're going to lose. Walking out on the people who elected you, that's what they're doing. It's not public service. That is political cowardice. Those are stunts. This is all about redistricting. I told you about it in yesterday's show. It's about Texas drawing new congressional maps. Maps, by the way, that every single state in this country have to redraw. The only difference, Texas is doing it with its eyes wide open, correcting years of gerrymandering that favored Democrats in urban centers like Houston and Dallas. And yes, these maps would likely give Republicans 5 more seats in Congress, 5 more votes for America First, 5 more votes for President Donald Trump's programs. That's what has the Democrats so upset. And let's be honest. The left has no moral high ground on redistricting. You ever seen New York's maps? You ever seen California's maps? These places are textbook examples of gerrymandering, things we learned about in high school civics. But now the Democrats want to run off to Illinois, literally flee the state to throw a tantrum. And not just in Chicago. They're organizing events in Albany, in Boston, and other liberal strongholds to grandstand and cry injustice. They're not doing their job. It's just that simple. They're just not doing their job, and it gets worse because Governor Abbott isn't just threatening symbolic slaps on the wrist. He laid it out pretty clearly. They could face felony charges for abandoning their constitutional duties. And good for him. That's what he should do. Some of these lawmakers are soliciting donations to help pay their fines because they expect to incur fines under House rules. They know they're wrong. I mean, that's borderline bribery. You're fundraising to avoid legal consequences. That's not a protest. That's corruption, isn't it? Governor Abbott was very plain. If any lawmaker took money to perform or refused to perform their duties in the legislature, that's bribery, he said. But hey, here comes Hakeem Jeffries, the House Minority Leader in Washington, saying at Abbott's, all hat, no cattle. Cute line, Congressman, but Texans don't need a lecture on ethics from the guy whose party can't even define what a woman is anymore. And while Jeffries is playing word games, Democrat governors like Gavin Newsom in California and Kathy Hochul in New York are jumping into the fray as well. They're getting involved in Texas politics, which I'm not sure they really know what they're getting involved in. They're not hiding it. They're flat out vowing to fight with fire, redraw their state's maps amid a decade just to get even. Well, look, if the population supports it, Kathy Hochul in New York, and you can pick up some congressional seats, fine. But guess what? People are fleeing the state of New York like crazy. They don't want to live in that in that crazy state that you have allowed to go woke and to literally push people out. High-income people, middle-class people, people of all walks of life are wanting to get out of New York. So New York is losing population. They're probably going to lose congressional seats because keep in mind, the 5 seats that Texas may pick up, they're having to come from somewhere. It's because Texas is growing and states like New York are not. Now, let's talk about the facts. Texas is redrawing maps without a new census, yes. And it is a bit unusual, but it's not illegal. In fact, there's no federal law saying states can't redistrict more than once per decade, and there's no court order blocking this. So Abbott's right. There's nothing illegal about the process. And you know who agrees with it? President Donald Trump. He's watching very closely, and he's made it clear these maps are a critical step in stopping Democrats' overreach in Washington. They could flip 5 seats in the House, 5 seats, folks. That's a majority there. That helps build on the slim majority we already have. So no wonder the Democrats are panicking. They know the only way to stop it is to not show up. They know they can't win the vote, so they're trying to rig the process by fleeing the state and hiding in hotels. And guess what? The taxpayers of Texas are probably paying for it. They're probably charging this on their state credit cards. So let me ask you this. If a private employee were to decide to walk off their job like this, refuse to come back, and still try to collect a paycheck, how long would they last? How long would private industry allow this to happen? These lawmakers, they think they're above accountability. And it's about time that someone reminded them that public office is a duty. It's not a vacation. And I think Governor Abbott is about to show them that. Speaker Burrows made it clear. He'll sign arrest warrants, and he has. Governor Abbott said he'd send state troopers to bring these folks back. Now, how does that work? They track them down in Chicago. How do they get them back to Texas? But he needs to enforce the law, doesn't he? I mean, that's holding public officials to their oath. You don't get to sit in the legislature only when it suits you. You don't get to walk away when the going gets tough. And you sure as heck don't get to campaign on representing the people of Texas, then run off to a donor retreat in Chicago when the going gets tough and you don't like how the vote's going. This is dereliction of duty, and they all should be held accountable. You agree? Text me, email me, joe@joeyhudson.com. Leave me a message on the MyPillow message line. 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Always use promo code Joey when you go to MyPillow.com and get the very best price that Mike Lindell has on all of the great products. And by the way, he's got some great products on the standard MyPillows. You know, he has some wonderful products. The sheets are just so comfortable. The towels are comfortable. The My Slippers. But he's getting back to where he started, and that's the classic My Pillows, and he's offering for only $19.98 wholesale pricing for a standard My Pillow when you use promo code Joey. It gets even better, though. For a limited time, they're going to offer their entire classic collection at wholesale prices. Queen size pillows, $24.98. King size, $29.98. Get the body pillows for only $39.98, and the multi-use My Pillows for only $12.98. So go to MyPillow.com or call 800-893-4059, 800-893-4059. Use promo code Joey and get your standard My Pillow for only $19.98. And again, just anytime you want to leave a message on the MyPillow message line, that number is 864-477-JOEY. I love to hear from you. So it's going to be interesting to watch this unfold in Texas, whether or not they come back on their own accord or if they're escorted back by state troopers. And look, while the media wrings its hands and the left spins their outrage machine, here's what Texans really want, what other Americans are looking on at. They want secure elections. They want fair districts. They want public servants who show up for work. And they want Democrats to stop treating every vote they don't like as an attack on democracy. Sometimes you just lose the argument. That's life. That's politics. America is in a health crisis. And by America, not just strangers across the country. It's personal. Me, you, friends, and family. And a major cause? Excess weight. Joey Hudson here. The solution isn't expensive shots like Ozempic. It's learning how to eat and think about food differently, and that's what PhD Weight Loss does. Their clients lose up to a third of their body weight, no drugs, just real food, behavioral coaching, and proven science to turn your body into a fat-burning machine. Sure, you could spend up to $20,000 a year on injections that burn muscle, not fat, and come with risks like pancreatitis or bowel blockages, only to gain it all back. PhD helps your body naturally produce weight loss hormones like GOP-1s, no shortcuts, just results that last. Already on Ozempic, Dr. Ashley Lucas and her team will help you safely transition off and keep losing weight. Let's make America healthy again. Call 864-644-1900. That's 864-644-1900 or visit myphdweightloss.com. I've gotten really behind on text messages these last few days, and I appreciate you sending them. I do read them. I read your emails. Love to get your text messages. I just don't always have time to fit them into the show. But there's some that came in yesterday. Tony, for example, says, "Well, the Simpsons are about as bad as the man who was kicked out of the soccer game. Have you seen the latest? They're now predicting Trump will have a heart attack in the month of August. This kind of stuff needs to be prohibited. We're going to be kicked out of sporting events. We should stop airing the biased shows." Look, these networks, Tony, are going out of business left and right, so they may not be around too much longer. Faye says, "Well, Joey, with Nancy Mace being added to the list running for governor, I may need to stock up on Pepto-Bismol. Sure hope the upstate has enough sane to counter those carpetbaggers at the coast. These at the coast know very well that Mace would destroy South Carolina. Mace is a clown show, and we don't want the South Carolina governor's office to be her stage. Use common sense, South Carolinians." Faye, I'm taking it you aren't a big fan of Nancy Mace. She did announce yesterday. We'll have the details for you in just a moment. Ray says, "Hey, Joey, just a silly question. With over half the world Muslim, why is our country paying for humanitarian aid in Gaza? Should not the Muslim world be taking care of their own Gaza? Just asking." We have an update for you on Israel as well. Last Friday, I think it was, I talked about tipping because I had an experience last week where I got very poor service. Did not even get the food that I ordered the way I wanted it. And so I decided, hey, she's not interested, the waitress. She's not interested in this, so why should I be interested in leaving her a tip? So I didn't leave a tip, and I never do that. And I ask you, what did you think about that? And do you think that you should always tip whether the service is good or not? Got a lot of feedback. Albert says, "My girlfriend has been a server for over 40 years. She said that you were in the right by not leaving a tip. In her opinion, the server is responsible for making sure that the order is delivered as ordered. Thank you, Albert. Tell your girlfriend I appreciate her feedback. Pete says, a normal server gets $2 something an hour. If they get a nice tip, it negates the hourly pay. Maybe it's time to have the restaurant industry raise the server's baseline pay up. I don't know. Maybe so. Look, if you're a server, you know what you're going to make going in. So wouldn't you be a little motivated to try to give good service so you get good tips? Mike in Simpsonville says, I get your perspective, Joey. I no longer tip according to the total bill value. If you do the minimum and just bring my food, you get a small tip. If you come back and check on me 2 or 3 times, that adds to what I want to leave as a tip. Look, Mike, it's all about service. And the tip is for that. The tip is for good service. In my case, I didn't even get the food that I wanted, and I did not get it cooked the way I wanted it. She acknowledged that. Didn't seem to bother her, though, that the cook hadn't done it right. It's almost like the cook didn't like the fact that I'd asked for it to be cooked a certain way, so he was going to be rebellious. I don't know. But anyway, she didn't get a tip. And I'm thinking that maybe that's going to be the way I tip going forward. Is truly based on service, not to pretend when somebody doesn't give you service, not pretend, well, I feel guilty here, I have to leave a tip. I don't know that you do. You can still offer your feedback. Email me, joey@joeyhudson.com. Text are welcome as well. You can leave me a message on the MyPillow message line, 864-477-JOEY. The Trump administration says that they're going to accelerate the construction of a nuclear reactor on the moon. Transportation Secretary and acting NASA Administrator Sean Duffy wrote in a memo that was distributed internally yesterday. The space agency has previously explored the possibility of installing an electricity-generating nuclear reactor on the lunar surface capable of powering a sustained human presence. But Secretary Duffy intends to fast-track the project and more than double the reactor's power output, according to documents that the New York Post is reporting on. The memo written by Duffy said to properly advance this critical technology to be able to support a future lunar economy, high-power energy generation on Mars, and to strengthen our national security in space, it is imperative the agency move quickly. It is about winning the second space race, he said. Duffy's directive will instruct NASA to seek out proposals for a 100-kilowatt nuclear reactor that would be ready to launch by 2030. That's 5 years away. In 2022, NASA's Fission Surface Power Project awarded design contracts for a 40-kilowatt nuclear reactor, which the agency said is capable of powering 33 households. If another country like China or Russia were to build a reactor on the moon first, it could declare a keep-out zone which would significantly inhibit the United States, according to Duffy's order. The directive calls for NASA to appoint a leader for the reactor project and to get private industry input within 60 days. Wow. What do you think about having a nuclear reactor on the moon to produce power for a potential colony up there? I don't know. Are we going to build living structures on the moon for people to live there while they do research? Now, here's another interesting part of this. According to the memo, NASA will look for private space flight companies able to get the reactor to the moon by 2030 when China intends to launch a manned moon mission. President Trump, of course, named Duffy. He's 53 years old, the acting head of NASA, last month after he withdrew the nomination of billionaire Jared Isaacman, an ally of ex-Doge chief Elon Musk. Now, as they're talking about these spaceflight companies, what's the first company comes to mind to do something like this? Elon Musk, his company. I bet Elon Musk could put a nuclear reactor on the moon. Who's it going to be? Some have said that this is a surprise move and that it came in response to a, quote, review of Isaacman's history. Trump said at the time, as far as Isaacman being withdrawn because of his affiliation with Doge and Musk. I don't know. Mr. Isaacman has donated tens of thousands of dollars to Democrat candidates and causes as recently as October 2024, according to the report, when he gave more than $41,000 to the Democrat Senatorial Campaign Committee, Federal Election Commission records show. Mr. Duffy outlined NASA's ambitious objectives to circle the moon, land, and eventually build a base on the surface last month in an interview with Fox News. He said, "We're going to go back to the moon during Donald Trump's presidency. Next year, start of the year, we're going to go back to the moon. We're not going to land. We're going to go around the moon, and then about a year later, we're going to land back on the moon. And then after that, we're going to set up a base camp." So that's the plan, is to set up a base camp. And I guess see if man can live on the moon. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be very expensive. We'll see. Israel's security cabinet is set to meet today to discuss the next steps in the nearly 2-year-old war with Hamas, including, we're told, the possibility of taking full control of the Palestinian enclave and operating militarily in areas that they have refrained from entering until now, basically occupying Gaza again. Israeli journalist Amit Segal, a commentator for Channel 12, the country's highest-rated news broadcast, quoted a source from the office of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu as saying that the decision has been made. We're going to occupy the Gaza Strip. Wow. Segal quoted the official as saying, "Hamas will not release hostages without total surrender. If we do not operate now, the hostages will die of starvation, and Gaza will stay under Hamas's control." The reports of deepening the military operation in Gaza come, of course, after months of mediated ceasefire talks between Israel and Hamas. They collapsed this week again, despite assurances by the U.S. Middle East envoy, Stephen Witkoff, who visited Israel over the weekend, that he was working on a plan that would end the war. It also comes after Hamas, the terror group who launched their attack on October 7th, 2023, the mass attack in Israel. It sparked the war, shocked the Israeli public with propaganda videos of emancipated hostages, including one who was forced to dig his own grave. Now, nobody believes that one. Again, it appears to be propaganda, but still, it's having the effect, it appears, that Gaza wants, because you're getting more and more Israeli citizens who are calling for the war to end. They see these images of these poor people starving to death. Additionally, there's international pressure on Israel to end the war, and that's being ramped up in recent weeks because of accusations that aid policy is causing famine in Gaza, and after images of severely malnourished children, some of whom were later proven to be children with pre-existing medical conditions, went viral and have been circulated on social media around the world. It's hard to watch this stuff. I get it. But they're also at war. Hamas started it. How do you end this if Hamas is not willing to step aside and stop the fighting? U.S. Representative Nancy Mace made it official. She's entering the 2026 governor's race in the Palmetto State. About an hour after sunrise yesterday, Ms. Mace declared her candidacy at the Citadel, the storied military college where she made history back in 1999 as the first woman to graduate from its Corps of Cadets. She made it very clear that she's not your typical politician.
Good morning, South Carolina. Thank you for waking up early before you head into work today. It's bright and early, beautiful day here in Charleston, South Carolina, on hallowed ground at the Citadel, the Military College of South Carolina. This morning, I'm making it official. I am running to be your governor of the great state of South Carolina. I didn't come to join the club. They don't want me, and I don't want them. I came to hold the line. They said, stay quiet. I spoke up. They said, sit down. I stood up. They said, play nice. And I fought back. South Carolina is tired of politicians who smile for the cameras, lie to your face, and then vanish when it's time to lead. I'm not one of them. I'm running for governor because South Carolina doesn't need another empty suit. It needs a governor who will fight for you and your values.
There's a lot of talk about not being part of the political elite and how she always fights back. She pointed to her years at the Citadel as giving her the, quote, courage and discipline needed to take on life's toughest battles. She noted that she entered the Corps of Cadets after dropping out of high school at age 17 and initially going to work at the Waffle House. She graduated in 1999, 3 years after the Citadel changed its male-only admission policy for cadets. She said, that's where I learned what it means to hold the line no matter the pressure, no matter the odds. Ms. Mace joins, of course, an already crowded field for the primary. Republicans who've already announced bids over the last month: Attorney General Alan Wilson, State Senator Josh Kimbrell, and Lieutenant Governor Pamela Abbott, and most recently, last week, U.S. Representative Ralph Norman of Rock Hill. Mace is 47 years old. She's a single mother, and she's been sniping at who it appears she considers her best competition, both on social media in front of voters. She's taken shots at Ms. Abbott a few times as a glorified ribbon cutter, but she has pretty much saved most of her criticism for Attorney General Alan Wilson, who's in his fourth term as South Carolina's top prosecutor. He's been her primary focus. As the start of the year, she began calling Wilson a do-nothing attorney general. Then in February, Ms. Mace took to the House floor and accused four men, including her ex-fiancé, of some of the most heinous crimes against women imaginable during a nearly hour-long prepared speech in the U.S. House of Representatives. People didn't quite understand, or they were scratching their head after her presentation. The Congresswoman said that she had discovered thousands of photos taken with hidden cameras, as well as recordings that the, quote, predators made of themselves sexually assaulting women over the years. She was among the victims, she claimed. The State Law Enforcement Division confirmed after her speech that it was investigating at least one of the men for assault and harassment and voyeurism. The investigation started December 14, 2023, after SLED was contacted by the U.S. Capitol Police. Ms. Mace also accused Attorney General Wilson of not addressing the crimes against her and other women. All four men accused have denied the accusation. One has sued for libel and defamation. Mr. Wilson said neither he nor anyone in his office had any knowledge of the accusations until her speech in the U.S. House. It's also not the Attorney General's job to start a police investigation, he was quick to point out. Since then, Ms. Mace has sued one of the other men for defamation, and a woman identified as Jane Doe, who says that she was a victim of three of the men, has filed her own civil suit. This is not a movie. This is not a soap opera. This is South Carolina politics. Nancy Mace unsuccessfully challenged U.S. Senator Lindsey Graham in 2014, you may remember. She placed fifth in that seven-way GOP primary, which Graham won without needing a runoff. In January 2018, she won a special election to the South Carolina House representing parts of Charleston and Berkeley County. She replaced a GOP legislator who had resigned after a years-long state house corruption investigation. In 2020, Mace ousted one-term Democrat Congressman Joe Cunningham. In the first congressional seat, she flipped the seat back to the Republicans. The district was then redrawn as part of the legislature's redistricting process in 2020 and favored a Republican, and Mace easily won re-election with more than 58% of the vote. Mace won her last GOP primary with the endorsement of President Donald Trump, but during her early days in Congress, the two had a kind of rocky relationship. Mace condemned President Trump following the January 6, 2021 protests at the Capitol, and was among House Republicans who voted to impeach him in the aftermath. In her first re-election bid, Trump backed her GOP challenger, though Mace ultimately won that primary. She's since become one of Trump's most fervent allies, though. Mace previously told reporters, I think that anyone that wants to run statewide or any election, really in 2026, 2028 beyond, will need the president's support. So that's the big question. You have Lieutenant Governor Pamela Abbott, who has served along with Henry McMaster very well. As you recall, McMaster received the president's endorsement. You've got Republican Representative Ralph Norman, who's also been an ally of President Trump, although they butted heads a few times. And Norman has held up legislation, particularly when it came to the budget. But in the end, he's always fought for Donald Trump. They all expect Trump's endorsement. So what do you think? Is Trump going to get involved in this governor's race in South Carolina, or will he sit it out? And if he doesn't get involved, how does that affect any of these three candidates? Alan Wilson has not said anything about getting Trump's endorsement, although he posts a lot of photos and videos of him being with the president. I think Lieutenant Governor Pamela Abbott, with her close association with the Trump administration, probably expects the Trump endorsement as well. It's going to be a tough one. Some of my political insiders think that probably Trump stays out, that Trump doesn't endorse anybody. So where does that leave these candidates? And what do you think about Nancy Mace? Now that she's officially in the race, I'd love to get your feedback. Email me, joey@joeyhudson.com. Text me. Leave me a message on the MyPillow message line, 864-477-JOEY. Do you take Nancy Mace seriously? Or are you like Faye, who texted earlier today, saying that Nancy Mace is a clown, that her theatrics are just not something you want to be a part of, and that her theatrics are something better, or South Carolina deserves better? Love to get your feedback. Your comments are welcome on the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. That's 864-477-5639. Emails always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. Speaking of the Furman Ford text line, it's never been more important to support locally run businesses owned by people who actually live here in the upstate. Let me take a minute to talk with you about our friends at Furman Ford. If you're looking for a new vehicle, maybe a great pre-owned vehicle, one you can trust, or maybe you're looking to order that special vehicle. Either way, if you want a new one, a brand new one, or a pre-owned that you can trust, the folks at Furman Ford, they're there to help you. Their name is on the sign because their name is on the line, because every single transaction is important to them. Jim Furman, Matthew Furman. They do business the right way. When you stop by, when you give them a call, or maybe when you just send them a quick email, you're always going to have access to a member of the Furman Ford family. And by the way, they also offer great service, and you're not going to have to wait weeks and weeks to get it done. And you do not have had to purchase your vehicle at Furman Ford. Doesn't even have to be a Ford. They service all makes and models. Visit my friends at Furman Ford online at furmanford.com, furmanford.com. Joining us on our guest line, Drew McKissick, chairman of the South Carolina Republican Party. Welcome. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well, thankful for cooler weather. How are you?
I am thankful for cooler weather as well. Boy, this past weekend, it was kind of like a fall weekend, nice and cool. But the heat will come raging back in, so we better not get too thankful. But we'll enjoy it while it lasts. Yep, for sure. So another week, another candidate for governor. Last week, of course, Congressman Ralph Norman joined the race for governor. This week, Congresswoman Nancy Mace is joining Lieutenant Governor Pamela Abbott, Attorney General Alan Wilson, State Senator Josh Kimbrell. In a couple of interviews last week, Representative Mace seemed to target Attorney General Alan Wilson, saying, and this is a quote, "I will fight to the finish, and I will take out South Carolina's Attorney General because he has turned a blind eye on women and children." This is probably going to get quite interesting, isn't it?
Well, it's 10 months until our next primary. I would hope all of our candidates will stay focused on their ideas and what they would like to do for our state, what they think is important, following up on the wonderful record of Governor McMaster, and then looking at the things that President Trump's been able to do in Washington. And, of course, Republicans' desire here in South Carolina to support him in that. 10 months is a long time. And so now's the time to introduce yourself to folks in South Carolina who may not know you, and what's important to you, what you want to do, and connect with those, especially the folks in the grassroots of our party around the state, because I mean, that's who you're going to represent. You're going to represent the Republicans on the ballot.
Yep.
And I mean, and the Republican nomination is worth having, obviously, because we've already got 5 candidates who are competing for it, and more yet may jump in the race. On the Democrat side, I haven't heard of any Democrat who has jumped into the race yet, officially or really semi-unofficially. And there's a reason for that, because the Democrat nomination in South Carolina is not worth having. They're going to have a hard time fielding candidates for all the statewide races up and down the ballot, I think, just like they did 4 years ago. But our job is to find the best candidate and put our message out in the field next year and turn out the votes to win.
Yeah. With 5 candidates in there, you mentioned maybe more. We don't know yet. Does a crowded field favor any particular candidate who's already in?
At this point, I don't think so. I mean, nobody really has, a headlock, if you will, on the polls. And look, it is early. I mean, again, 10 months out, we're in August, and people at this point are just getting off vacation, if you will, not really paying a lot of attention. Filing for this, by the way, I mean, you're not really an official candidate until you file to run in the primary, which will not be until the end of March next year.
Yeah.
So we've got a long time. And so that's why I say it's kind of like, this stuff comes out of the gate fast, but then it's going to slow down. And it's going to be a slog for these candidates all across the race, county party to county party, women's club meeting to women's club meeting, I mean, you name it, all around the state, looking for volunteers, folks who could help them on their campaign, looking for donors, trying to get people attracted to their message, and doing the kind of retail work that they're going to need to do that'll make them a better candidate for our party in the fall next year.
Yeah. Obviously, they all would like to receive the endorsement of President Donald Trump. Most of them have mentioned that, hinting that maybe he would choose them. Is there a chance that the president might endorse someone, or does he just kind of sit this one out? Because he has several candidates in this race whom who's supported him in the past, and that could get tricky as well.
It could. It would. Let's put it this way: it would surprise me if the president decided to get involved in this race and endorsing someone this early. I honestly wouldn't expect to see something like that happen until potentially even after filing of next year, maybe a month or two before the primary. I would think, because again, very early, folks aren't paying a lot of attention. Nobody really has a stranglehold on the lead. So a lot of folks could be considered a dark horse at this point. That's the luxury of time that he has to sit back, let the field gel, let the voters in the state sort of figure it out and get a better idea of how these candidates perform and who he thinks he would prefer to endorse. He thinks will make the better candidate. He doesn't have to be in a hurry.
Right. Drew McKissick is our guest today. After Representative Norman announced last week, Senator Wes Clymer announced he would be running for that 5th district congressional seat. Mm-hmm. That may get crowded up there. And, of course, with Mace getting in, any idea of any possible congressional candidates in the 1st district?
At least 3 or 4.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've talked to some of them who have, just been sitting back waiting for her to make her move. I would expect within the week you'll see probably at least one announcement. Could be another one.
Sure.
And again, a long time between now and filing of next year. You've got plenty of time for a self-funder down there to potentially drop into this race after other folks sort of, burn out, folks, the media there in terms of just attention. It's going to be a crowded field. Last time around when that seat was wide open, if I remember, when Sanford went back into that seat, I think they had 17 candidates in that primary,
wow.
if I recall.
Wow. Yeah, it's going to be quite interesting. Next year, we'll obviously be watching U.S. Senate races. One of those crucial races is that of Georgia with Democrat Senator John Ossoff. We learned this morning, actually, that the son of former coach Vince Dooley, Derek Dooley's getting in that race. That's going to be interesting as well.
We got a football theme going on there in Georgia and Alabama, don't we? I mean,
yes.
Tuberville's going to leave the Senate there apparently and run for governor down in Alabama, and they got Dooley's son going to run for Senate in Georgia. I guess it's maybe we figured that football coaches might be the last group of folks that maybe have a little bit of a I don't know, as far as stars are concerned. If we would think of media stars and so forth, the last group that might have some respect in the South.
Yep. Well, look,
SEC football coaches.
Everybody in Georgia knows the name Dooley. Maybe not Derek Dooley, but they know the name Dooley. So, I guess that may give you a leg up a bit there. But it's going to be interesting to watch for sure. 2026, Drew McKissick, we're going to have plenty to talk about.
Absolutely. No doubt about it.
Yep. Appreciate your time today. We'll catch up with you again soon.
Yes, sir. You have a great week, man.
That's it for today's edition of Just the Truth. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. If you haven't joined my mailing list yet, visit my website, joeyhudson.com. Click on the Connect with Joey button so that you can receive our emails and the most up-to-date news. Also, join me on my YouTube channel. Be sure and like, comment, and subscribe. Just search for Joey Hudson. As always, thanks for spending a few minutes of your day with me. Do me a favor and forward this episode to a few friends. Just click on the share button and send to your contacts. We need to build an army of conservatives to win our country back, and we can do that by continuing to share the truth with our friends and family. Keep those comments coming via the Furman Ford text line 864-477-JOEY. Email to joey@joeyhudson.com, and I love your messages on the MyPillow message line. Again, that's 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Be sure and take advantage of the MyPillow special, just $14.88 on the standard MyPillows when you use promo code Joey. Order online at mypillow.com or call 800-893-4053. We're back again tomorrow and hope you'll plan to join us. Until then, remember, God's got this. He's still in control.